Ada Williams was known as a notorious baby farmer who would end up being convicted of the murder of 21-month-old Selina Ellen Jones in London back in 1899. A practice that is all but extinct today in most parts of the world, baby farming was a popular method at the time in which Victorian-era ladies would put a child, quote-unquote, out to nurse, which meant they would have others raise a child away from the family in exchange for some form of payment. The term baby farmer was often used as an insult even during the time of its practice, and poor care of the child in the custody of a baby farmer was usually expected and even understood. Ladies would often call upon a baby farmer if their own child was illegitimate, or would place some undue stress or social stigma on the mother or family in question. Wealthy women would often place their children in the care of families of villagers far away from the city, or where they kept a permanent residence. The practice itself existed before the foster care system or adoptions had become regulated by British law. Where things get extremely problematic is in the lump sum payments doled out to the people taking up an adoption of an unwanted child. A baby farmer would often make far more money, which was paid in a lump sum up front, if the child they took in died, using the money on themselves instead. Many baby farmers of the time were known to adopt multiple children, whom they later heavily neglected or outright murdered in order to make their money. And this brings us back to the story of Ada Williams. In September of 1899, an unwed mother by the name of Florence Jones came across a newspaper advert that was offering to find homes for unwanted children. Jones saw this as her ticket out of the situation and agreed to meet a Mrs. Houghton, where the pair came to an agreement to take the child off her hands. The full terms of the agreement are unknown, but Jones stated that she agreed to pay Mrs. Houghton £5 to find her child a home with a willing family. This would have been it, and it may have been in many other situations, but problems arose when Jones was only able to pay £3 on the day of the meeting. Jones, sticking to her word, would return later with the additional £2, only to find out that the woman she had met was gone, and her infant daughter missing. For whatever reason, maybe because she felt she was actually doing what was best for her and her child at the time, Jones would end up going to the police. Mrs. Houghton would later be identified as Ada Williams, and came forward in a letter to police during their investigation denying any crime had taken place, but did admit she was a for-profit baby farmer. Police were left with nothing to go on as there was no body, and thus could not even prove that any murder had taken place. But this would all change when the body of young Selina washed up on the bank of the Thames River. An autopsy on the body was carried out, where several disturbing things were discovered. A pattern emerged as the coroner discovered a cord used to strangle the child featured a distinctive fisherman's bend knot that was used not only on Selina, but as well as 3 other children that had been discovered previously. On top of that, Selina's head showed a large bruise which suggested that whoever killed her had grabbed her by the legs and violently swung her against a hard surface, most likely a wall, before strangling the child to death. Investigators then would search the home of Ada Williams and that of her husband, and in the process discover a rope on the floor that was knotted with the same distinctive fisherman's bend knot. The jury in the eventual trial would find Ada Williams guilty and sentence her to death by hanging. Her sentence was carried out in the yard of Newgate Prison on March 6th of 1900, less than a month after her conviction. But what's most concerning about this case is that Ada Williams was highly suspected of killing several other children in the same manner over the years, but proceedings were never brought against her for the discovered bodies. Many still speculate that Williams killed even more children that were never discovered or reported in her time as a baby farmer.